Context, I wanted you to understand that the U.S. government is looking at this on the public side, and of course we have companies that are looking at this as actual implementers on the private side. And one of a key company that is looking at this is Level 3, and we're happy to have Andrew Pittman here to share his thoughts on this context. And Andrew, as you may wish to reference this or go into other slides.
I'm glad you left that on there.
Please.
All right. Hi, I'm Andy Pittman. Minister Sangeen, thank you for being here. Everybody else, thank you also. For those who don't know who Level 3 is, I'm not going to do a commercial or anything like that, but we're the largest internet provider on the globe today. We've got over 4,000 peering points and peers around the globe. We do, and my particular job is that I support the U.S. government overseas. So for all the military bases, the U.S. embassies, and that sort of thing. So what Bob just showed here is very important to what's going on today in as far as communication infrastructure. Level 3 also is a leading provider of internet too. So we do a lot of research and education. We support a lot of the universities globally, and we also interconnect most of the regional hubs for all the research and education areas. The other thing that we also do is that we provide content delivery networks. We base it right into the network. And another thing about how to make cost of internet, phone service, all these other things is the cost of backhaul. And so the cost of backhaul is really important, and you've mentioned that you're down under $20 now, which is really awesome, right? But CDN is another platform where you actually cache local information. So if people are doing Facebook, or they're doing YouTube, or they're doing Netflix, or any other type of service, which all of those are customers of Level 3s, they allow for the content not to have to go, say, for instance, for Afghanistan right now, you take all the information back to Europe. You're able to locally cache all the information, and you're able to provide a better experience for the user. So this increases the ability for people to have a good experience and for people to like their service and to use more of it. So we think that by doing this, we're also investing. We're one of the few U.S. companies right now that's actually investing in Southwest Asia, in Africa, and in other developing areas. So we're building that. Now, to get back to Bob's issue here, now I didn't quite know that this picture was going to come up, but this is really good. So. Actually, one of the major things here is that competition really turns on the heat when there's more than one cable, or more than 2 or 3 cables, or there's more than 2 or 3 providers. The more people in there competing brings down the cost of delivering the service. And right now, where you see that blue line kind of going through the Gulf and down to India, that's really not one line. There's about 6 big major cables that go there. There's several cables that go into Pakistan, but there's 2 new cable systems possibly going through there. There's the AAE1 and also CWME 5. And those particular cable systems are going to be able to bring to the region multi-terabits, 6, 8, 10 terabits of capacity. And that's going to be able to help lower costs. So, and the issue that Bob's bringing up is, if you see that big cloud, or the big shock sign that's in Egypt, this is a big issue right now. There's a lot of cables that go through Egypt, and Egypt has right now a difficult time of maintaining connectivity. So there's always circuits going down, there's always fiber cuts. There are areas where the cables weren't actually put into the water correctly. And so anchors drag and they pull them up and cut connectivity. So in order to make this better, these routes that are showing up here now going through Iraq and going through Jordan and also going up through the northern routes up through Uzbek and through Tajikistan and going up into Russia and that sort of thing. These are all protection routes for the main capacity. Certainly the lower routes going through Egypt are less expensive because this is where the fiber is actually in the ground or in the water. But if we were able to get more people to invest in doing these other cables going in different directions, it would also lower the cost and provide multiple avenues of how to get service out and around. So we're hoping that this does become a hub because we're actually interested in this for many, many reasons. And my support of the U.S. government is actually looking at this now. So the last point that I wanted to make is that I know that we do lots of things, but I think that technology, education and technology is going to be very, very important. The more that people in Afghanistan can learn about technology and learn how to do things, at one point at AT&T, when they told, I worked there also at one point, they said that they make $60 million a month just in apps, okay? So if people learn how to do these applications and learn how to write code and they learn how to do all these creative things, who knows who's going to be able to be the next millionaire? And, you know, it's also going to help, you know, develop other things. So I applaud everybody with trying to bring education to Afghanistan and the universities, and hopefully somebody will be the next Twitter guy or the next Facebook lady or the next other person. So, and maybe even the $12 billion that Facebook just paid for WhatsApp. I mean, that's the craziest thing ever, but hopefully somebody will be able to come out and make one of these crazy little apps that makes everybody very proud. Thank you.
Andrew, thank you. I do hope that there's opportunity for you all to have a chance to talk with Andrew offline, because this, I think, is one of the most important topics we're touching upon all day. And we greatly appreciate the interest and value that Level 3 is bringing to consideration of the way ahead and working with various organizations. I do want to also acknowledge that we have a reach-back organization that works with our telecom advisory team, and a number of us are involved with fiber-related activity. And Lou Shadle, who is one of our colleagues from Deloitte, is the person who actually pulled these graphics together. He works more on the private sector engagement. I work more on the public sector engagement, and we do not want Lou to not be acknowledged for the hard work he does. So moving on, I will ask Mr. Frazier to please come forward and talk to us with regards to DigiGlobe.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. So I think I have a slide deck, if we could pull it up.
And we're going for 6 minutes each. I'm sorry, I didn't.
All right, we'll Your Excellency, thank you very much for your participation in this forum. While my deck is being brought, it's on the home page there. Yep. Or not. Okay, well, while we're waiting to get that pulled up, so let me tell you a little bit about DigiGlobe. So DigiGlobe is a company in the satellite imagery business. That's what we're known for. But what I really like to think about us as we have a platform for collecting information about global change, and our purpose of seeing a better world is really focused on how we can take the information that we collect about the planet and then apply it to map risk and opportunity. around the world. And so our experience in Afghanistan has historically been very focused on supporting the U.S. government with a military mapping mission. But what is really interesting about our business is that while we own and operate a constellation of satellites that collect very high resolution imagery of the Earth that can serve one purpose with the U.S. government, it's all unclassified, which means it's shareable and can be applied to many other use cases. And so, so we now have a constellation of 5 satellites that are able to map the Earth with high frequency at very high resolution and accuracy, which then allows you to have a platform of data that you can then extract really useful information from to drive many other use cases. This is a view of the amount of data we can collect over a 30-day period. So each of the footprints are actual images that we collect with our constellations of satellites. And what it allows is that it allows you to take an area. This is an application. This is actually looking at Bing Maps, and can update that to really document change. And so these are a few images from the before and after from the Sochi Olympics. And to be able to take something that was very focused on putting information in the hands of the military, now putting it in the hands of a consumer, really is empowering. And I think just from hearing your comments earlier, sir, what I see as a really interesting opportunity is, given the amount of mobile penetration, the broad access to internet enabled applications, that there's ways to take this experience, which we all know, using tools like Google Earth or Apple Maps, and can turn the consumers of maps and imagery into producers, which could be a really interesting economic development opportunity. So one of the capabilities that we've been incubating within Digital Globe is to do just that, which is, how do you take the consumers of satellite imagery and ask them to not just look at the image, but participate and identify features to document change. This is an example of some work we do in the U.S. Supporting natural disasters, where we literally can capture an image after a major event. In this case, there was a major tornado that affected Moore, Oklahoma last year. And within 6 hours of having this image put online, we had thousands of contributors do a very accurate damage assessment, which then enabled first responders to know where to go and how to both get injured people out and bring aid in. And so we've been able to replicate that model. And actually part of our business model with this is we frequently, for major events like this, we engage volunteers to contribute their time to extract these features. But we also have a model where there's a pay crowd, where we actually have, for certain use cases, say we're trying to document infrastructure in a given area for a corporate client, where we'll do these micro tasks and we pay people, many of which can be anywhere around the world. As long as they have internet connectivity and they can pull up a map, they can create information that then we're able to monetize, and then we participate in that with our distributed network. And so really my role at Digital Globe is I lead our Insight line of business. We have a heavy infrastructure associated with collecting all the data, but then we're really focused on how it can be applied. Many of the applications and use cases range from supporting humanitarian assistance and disaster relief to conflict management, so security-related applications, so looking at how to map risk in a given area. We do work with other NGOs around trafficking of goods, so documenting both in the governed and ungoverned areas, supply chains, as well as looking at the development of infrastructure. And so one use case I just wanted to touch on briefly was with the World Bank. And so we've been doing work in Syria, where we've been leveraging our capabilities to map both damaged buildings, but also in agriculture. So with multispectral imagery, you're able to see change of both crop type and crop health over different periods of time. And so smallholder farmers, it's a way to help direct investment in both supply chain infrastructure, irrigation, and other resources of that matter. And so, my feeling is that there's a massive opportunity for cooperation and collaboration around innovation. And a few of the themes I think we touched on today, they involve infrastructure mapping, being able to activate your large consumer base of mobile devices to understand sentiment and then use that to guide different investment initiatives. There's security resource allocation, the discussions around how to identify which towers may be at risk for attack from insurgents, and then the agriculture monitoring. And so would be really excited to partner with the Afghanistan people towards that end. Thank you.
I'd also like to modify, if I could, and ask Paul if you might go last, since you did have a chance to speak on the other panel, you Alpha to Omega, and then we'd like to proceed with IZ Technologies with Mr. Planto. And Mr. Planto's organization is working with the Telecom Advisory Team in Afghanistan, and I'm happy to be able to say that we know from firsthand experience that the work that IZ is doing is appreciated in the field, both by DISA and we believe by the Minister for being very concrete, tangible examples of engagement on ICT work in country.
Oh, thank you for your kind words, Bob. Your Excellency, honored guests, thank you very much for allowing me to speak. We were asked to talk about an Afghani perspective, and I want to do that based upon our experience in Iraq. We started in 2006 working with the Task Force for Business Stability Operations in Iraq, and we did all kinds of things. This was when the company first got started. I'm the founder. And we did everything from IT services to also doing work supporting the Ministry of Communications and assisting them with their regulatory agency, the CMC. We had an infrastructure support element, and this organization was comprised of both telecommunication regulatory advisors and subject matter experts who came into Iraq and supported their ministries. We provided CIO training. We had a vice president from Gartner on our staff. We had people who did architecture for General Motors and things to work on their government infrastructure and their e-government. And the reason I'm bringing this up is, we went into both Afghanistan and Iraq about the same time. And it's amazing, the things we have seen today, to put in perspective, how far Afghanistan has come, and while Iraq is trying, they're not getting there. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the work of the government and your work, sir, because without the support, without having the laws to be put in place, and as one of my staff members called it, legal security, you're not going to get that investment in the countries. We talked earlier about bilateral agreements and things here for the U.S., and I'm not a lawyer. I don't know those things, but it's amazing with Afghanistan already having $2 billion in investment, and also 140,000 jobs, so they're doing things right. And of those 140,000 jobs, I wonder how many other jobs would not be available without the communication infrastructure that the country has. So I did a little research before I came here because just want to be able to speak, and I found that the ministry's telecommunication internet policy from 2003, they were based it on 5 principles. And those principles were to create a legal and regulatory environment that nurtures and accelerates industry growth, engage private investment to the greatest extent possible, establish a level playing field for competition, introduce market liberalization, and encourage the usage of internet and information and communication technologies. Now, I'm not aware of that type of policy or that type of guidance being set when we were supporting Iraq. We drafted strategic communication documents in support of broad telecom reform in Iraq, and none of this, I don't remember any of that. this type of a theme. Also, we provided market advice and recommendations on how to implement the strategic messaging for the CMC and new telecom law. And what happened in Iraq was they just couldn't get the things through their parliament. There was too much turmoil. And I don't think that's what we've seen in Afghanistan. Now, today we've heard many things. We've talked about successes, the challenges, issues, and the way ahead. And from my perspective, I think the way ahead, and we've spoken about this many times here, is the fiber piece. You have to have that broadband communication capability to build the foundation. And it must be reliable, and it must have a great deal of bandwidth, because build it, they will come. You hear stories about so much fiber being put in the ground here in the U.S., and guess what? They use it. I mean, once you put it in, they're going to figure out ways to use it. And also, by having, as we put it again, the legal security, that's going to support long-term investment. And by having long-term investment in Afghanistan, you're going to have the people stay there, because those jobs are going to be there long-term. What we saw in Iraq was people would, something would come in, people would get trained, and then they'd leave. So you need to have the investment there, the jobs there, and companies coming in, so people will have security with their jobs. The 140,000, get it to 200,000, and I think you're on the way for that. Of course, other things are having the trained local human resources, having the people there that have the ITC background and training. Yeah, bless you. And there's many different ways of training. The schools, online training once you have the infrastructure in place, computer-based training and things along those lines. Lastly, I just want to say that the only way to do this is you have to continue having that legal security, working on the bilateral agreements to get even more investments into the country, and that'll ensure long-term growth and sustainability of the ICT sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joel Allen, who's Senior Vice President for International Business Development with Thalia. It's been my personal privilege to work with Joel since the late 80s when we were working ComSat and Intelsat issues, international facilities, and more recently, the work that Joel has done with USAID and Deloitte through the EGGI project to help develop business processes, advisory support for Afghan telecom, I think was greatly appreciated by certainly those of us who participated on the ground in Kabul, and I believe the minister shares that view as well. Thank you, Joel, for that work as well, and thank you for coming up.
Thank you, Bob. It's a pleasure to be here today. Your Excellency, it's good to see you again after departing in February, I guess, of 2011, and to hear the progress that you have made, you and your ministry have made in the country and for the people. Yes, I have some connections. I was with IZ Technologies in Iraq in 2009 and 2010, part of that team. I've worked with Level 3 off and on different projects. Paul Johnson, his team is very prominent in Afghanistan, and his previous chairman and CEO was a longtime friend in the satellite business. So this is kind of a home regathering of me from some old friends and colleagues. And to maybe also emphasize the difference between Iraq and Afghanistan in terms of the ministries of communications. I think Minister Sangin has turned upside down the concept that the administration, regulation, and operations of a ministry all need to be separated and decentralized. I think the second look is the leadership that needs to be examined, not necessarily the capabilities of the ministry. And I think what the successes there in Afghanistan with the ministry should be noted throughout the Western governments who do promote the separations. I've got seven bullets, and 7 minutes, so I think some of these items have already been touched on, so I'll just go quickly through some of these. Domestic and regional hubs require wireless. The Afghan-SAT system is doing that domestically, as I heard earlier today. It also has regional footprint and international footprints, which will support the hub concept of Afghanistan. Cultural, call center, media distribution hubs are important to facilitate during this initiation for different hubs. Content, whether it's mobile or fixed, this is the driver for use of the internet. Transit is a logical extension of hubbing. Bob's map and Andy's presentation also support that. Transit is well, first of all, Afghanistan has a negative geographic situation, not having a coastline. It has a positive geographic situation because it's in the central of Central South Asia. Not having a coastline coming from a fiber optic subsea cable orientation, when I was there, we had to get Afghanistan closer to the sea. And Minister, you may remember this, but the Telecom Coastline was an initiative that we started there. The idea was purchasing long-term capacity from the one or multiple Pakistan carriers who had resilient network from both two borders, the east and the southern border of Afghanistan, to Karachi. Now when I was in Kabul, it was $300 per meg per month, and then that came down considerably. It came down from a higher number, and to hear 20 is spectacular. Last time I heard anything from your team, it was like 85 or 90. This is significant progress. But I think what we want to do is get you to the sub 10, sub 5 dollars per meg per month, and that will do it. Getting this Telecom Coastline initiative to move forward would really support your hubbing as well as your transit initiatives. Just another point, transit circuits, in my experience, in the industry called droit de passage, rite of passage, those circuits are normally priced less than circuits terminating in the country, regardless of distance. This is to support the initiative to get traffic through the country and not necessarily to terminate in the country. And also, I think we saw on the map, Pakistan and Iran are competitive points south. TSL's Trans-Siberian Line, TEA, TTK are all competition to the north. Iraq has been coined some years ago called the River of Gold. That was their idea of transit across the country. And after some time, that's starting to see, regardless, despite the current situation, through Turkey, through Jordan, those are transit routes that have been activated, not necessarily stable. So anyway, from a perspective of opportunities, I think the opportunity is in transit and hubbing for the country are pretty significant. I'm sure you will be successful. Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
And of course, as we said, from first to last, Alpha Omega, we welcome back Paul Johnson with his extraordinary longevity of engagement in the sector in country. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Bob. And I will keep the remarks somewhat brief regarding where we are today and suggest that maybe we have a little bit of time saved to discuss some of the challenges. But Globecom today is continuing to believe in the Afghan market. It recognizes the potential. Our work has changed. I'm sorry, I'm too tall, so I'm gonna have to do this again. Our work has changed from systems integration, has evolved from systems integration. Yeah, we still do that, but it's more focused on the ISP and services, managed services, lifecycle support. The good question that was asked by the gentleman, I don't know if he stepped out for coffee, but the issue on licensing with respect to what we've done with a company called Malat, we formed in 2009. It's an internet service provider. Went very smoothly because that process was in place. The issue, however, for Malat is that it's migrated away from a satellite-based provider to really, we're probably one of the top 3 or 2 purchasers, buyers of fiber optic services from Aftel. So Aftel is evolved from being a customer where we provide that service to a supplier of services that are really critical for a lot of our customers in Afghanistan. So who are the customers? It's the government organizations, the Afghan government organizations, international military agencies, ISAF, NATO, international commercial organizations and missions, and SMEs. What's our 5-year plan? We want to focus on the data and voice managed services when approved by ATRA so that an ISP can do that kind of a service provision. We're looking at how we might pursue, in our company where we have a vertical that's developed, which is a wireless service that we host 3 MSCs at our facility. So we'd like to see how we can work in partnership with Aftel to be an MVNO, resell regionally. We're going to introduce a Ka-band service. We're working with the satellite provider Avanti for that. And we've addressed the 5 major zonal areas. Yes, there's Ka-band services being offered today. We think we have a package that will deliver a quality of service and a price point that's going to be very interesting. We want to be involved with the turnkey ICT procurements, services and solutions for lifecycle support and consultancy services. So challenges. The comment was made earlier about the license, the ISPs. There was 50 ISPs. Well, of that 50, I would say there's probably a half a dozen, maybe a bit more, how would you say, that are really, in the ISP business. They're not special purpose, per se, providers. One of the things that hindered under the NISPA, which was a nice organization that tried to be very proactive with voicing concerns, was the disadvantage of those ISPs that made the investment into the license and then the infrastructure, only to have the global, the GSM operators come in and have, through their license, the ability to provide last mile. And obviously, that's a very crucial thing. So I wouldn't do anything differently than what was done, but for the ISPs, for those that are trying to continue to be competitive, it's a handicap. So that's a challenge. Co-location in the point of presence. We'd like to be able to bring and have hosted at Aftel our services that we could transit through the POP. The third challenge is replacement for companies in the private sector. Replacement of those customers, 50% of that, if this drawdown goes as planned, are going to need to be replaced. And then we have the very important factor of completion of the OFC. As touched upon, it's not yet done. We don't really have redundancy. That cost per megabit coming down, we need to understand what it means if you have the diverse route going to the north, because that's not the price if you wanted to have a true redundant situation. And then I just wanted to offer one suggestion to Minister Senghine on the issue of job creation, and it's been somewhat of a topic, or not topic, but something that's done in other countries, and that would be to consider adding the science aspect to the MCIT mission, because somebody that's as creative as you are, I think you could really, and you touched on in your presentation that you would have a program where the young Afghan engineers would be awarded a innovation grant. I think that's an absolutely excellent idea, and it was touched upon by Andrew. That's exactly what has to happen for the job creation in any country. You have to have the education, the capability, and then the incentive for the young people to work. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. I just want to share one other comment. We have been moving very quickly before we open it up to comments from the minister and questions. In the graphic I had showed you, I said I'd be coming back to the fact that the minister had successfully worked in 2007 to have the ICT sector recognized as a critical sector by the government of Afghanistan, which was a major accomplishment. Following from that, in the context of this New Silk Road engagement, there is an organization called RECA, Regional Economic Cooperation Conference of Afghanistan. 2 years ago, DoD, State Department, and others worked with the parties involved in the RECA to have in cooperation with of course, the Ministry of Communications, to have the ICT sector of Afghanistan recognized as a key both national and regional infrastructure by that organization. So that was another key accomplishment that I wanted to be sure everyone was aware of under the stewardship of the minister. So with that, I guess we'll open it up for the minister's comments and for general Q&A.
Thank you. I think this was also an excellent session. I'm very happy to see major American companies here like Digital Globe, Level 3, and Globecom, Easy Technologies, and Thalia. These are all very relevant for the future, and I think I was very happy to see the digital maps. I think that's a good potential in future in Afghanistan. And I was also happy to hear the comparison of Iraq and Afghanistan. I think it just shows you that, there is this English proverb which says that the devil is in the details. Huh? I think, when you're making policies, actually, it is very important. What do you mean by these policies? I myself have experienced that many ministries, they spend millions of dollars. Some advisors come to Afghanistan, and they make some good policies. And then what happens? There will just be a document on the cupboard, in some cupboard in an office lying there. Because ministers change, new ministers comes, nobody even knows what was the policy or what is the policy. So I think when we made the policies, it was very detailed. And then not only just the policy that you make, but actually the important is that you believe in that policy, and that then you try to honestly implement that policy. I think that's what brings the success. So I'm happy to hear all the presenters in this session, and I really hope that, as they mentioned, that the major American companies, not only them but more, I hope, will be informed about this symposium, and that they will be informed about the potential for coming to Afghanistan and actually making their presence there, and partnering with Afghan companies in trying to achieve some of the goals that we have been talking about today. I don't have any more remarks in this session, but if there is any question, I'll be happy to take the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
start over.
Thank you very much. My name is Abed Saidi from Safir Group. It was really good, everything, and we met the new companies, Afghan-American. But I was missing something, the e-commerce. Nobody talk about the e-commerce. And in Afghanistan, we need the e-commerce. And I, by myself, I create the e-commerce, the first website in Afghanistan, and we are selling the item. But I got the license in 3 months from the Ministry of Commerce. We went to ATRA. ATRA says we are not allowed to issue any license for e-commerce. So I went for 1 week to visit the Ministry of Commerce, and I explained him how important is the e-commerce for Afghanistan. And finally he said, okay, you can go and you can start any problem you face, you can come to me and I will talk to you. So I didn't hear anything about the e-commerce.
I'll just make a very quick comment. It's certainly not for a lack of appreciation of the importance of e-commerce development. It frankly is more a function of we are flying here and trying to get through a lot of material, and we ended up dealing with some of the mountaintops on some subjects, but you're absolutely right, it is a key area, and I pass it to the Minister.
Well, I actually had it in my presentation, but due to a shortage of time, I didn't talk too much about it. So e-commerce is an area, I think, which we want to encourage more and more in Afghanistan. Like now many Afghan people are using their mobile phones to get access to the banks, for example. They can do their banking service through internet and mobile phones. In addition to that, already many people are able to book their airline ticket online. That's e-commerce. So like that, we want to encourage more and more. But I think if there is any problem regarding licensing because from our side, ATRA, our Ministry of Communication, to do business online, you don't need any license from us, I think. And I don't know why Ministry of Commerce should be making any problems in this. I think we'll be able to, if you have any problems in the future, you are welcome to our ministry, and I will personally make sure that if there are issues, that we try to take these kind of issues on a cabinet level and try to find solutions which removes obstacles, because we want to encourage any new applications which is using internet in online services. So I'll be happy to help you.
Just one small comment. We don't have any problem with the registration. The problem is the trust of the people. E-commerce is something that they can have fraud easily. And people don't have the trust. The government should show to the people of Afghanistan, this website has the authority to sell online something. And we can have, for example, a certificate from the government of Afghanistan that the government issue, for example, for Bazaar.com, Tijarat.com. This website allowed to work in Afghanistan. For example, I faced the problem that somebody bought something from Amazon.com, but they never get an Afghanistan item. So that here's happening a problem. E-commerce is something really sensitive, and the government should step in and tell the people that there's a trust and untrust websites.
Okay, this is quite, I think, quite a new issue for us. We have to work on it. But in Afghanistan, I think the conditions for e-commerce is just beginning. You know why? Because still many people don't have a bank card. So if you don't have a bank card, how you are going to do e-commerce? This is very few people which has actually this card from a bank which he can use. The Visa or the MasterCards are not there. So this is one of the issue. In the other issues, I think you're right. This is something new. How do we build the confidence of the people? But I think in this case, it is not just the government, but I think the people who want to take initiative to this kind of activities, I think more responsibility lies on them to make sure that in the initial phases, they deliver proper service, and when somebody orders something, that it is delivered in time, and with the right quality. So I think it is I think, responsibility on you also to win the confidence, because I think this is very important. Yes. Yeah.
We have one time for just one last question.
Thank you very much. I also would like to echo His Excellency's sentiments here. I'm very happy, very proud that I see companies like Level 3 on the panel, and the other distinguished companies. And I think this is great. The credit goes to AACC's efforts. This is like almost a dream come true. I like to request humbly, Your Excellency, that you make the case for Level 3, and they are the world's largest internet service provider, and they have all these transit points, that you make the case for them, because it's good for our country, for Afghanistan, and for the people. So they can to tie their feet down in Afghanistan, give them whatever it takes for them to come to Afghanistan and do business there. So also I was hoping that I would see somebody from the Afghan embassy, so I'd like to humbly request the AACC to, on our behalf, on AACC's behalf, make this case, so get their interest here also, so they could do more lobbying for us. But this is wonderful. This is what we've been waiting for a long time. You can count on us on the ground in Afghanistan. As you trusted partners, and the Excellency said, we're all for it. We want to do good for both countries. A lot has been done. Let's just not leave it here. So this is a great, great, great development right when U.S. is trying to reduce its presence, military presence in Afghanistan. Thank you so much.
Just to add to Farhad Ghafoor's comments, we do want all of you to have great interest in Afghanistan. Come there, and if nothing else, we can show you the Afghan hospitality. So if Level 3 comes to Afghanistan, I'll make sure that I'll invite them for a special dinner at my home.
So, Tashakur and Manana, thank you so much for giving us the time, and for our panelists. Ask Assad and Don to come up. I know, Assad, you have a quick comment to share.
So can I have one question?
I thank the panel.
Thank you, Bob. Can I have one question and suggestion, Okay. Well, my name is Yusuf. I'm from MIDS Corporation. We are a small, medium company based in Afghanistan, and we have a small office here as well. I was looking at, this conference, and, everybody was talking about like big, big opportunities, big businesses, and all these big companies, like your companies, are all big, So what about the small and medium companies? You don't talk about them, you don't support them. I see from like the mobile money project, all the telecom companies got the, $1 million of grants, but there is no support for small companies. This is my question, why? And then I have a suggestion in order for this kind of relationship. Either there has to be some continuous cooperation and gathering, or there has to be an incubator center in AACC where, Afghan companies and US companies can have regular, meetings so that, these partnerships can happen. Thank you very much.
Does anybody want to address
you can answer the ACC part.
Yeah.
I think our panel should probably leave the podium, and as you address that.
I want to thank the panel. They did a wonderful job. I think the future looks quite bright. If we get Assad Martinez talking, we get a good bilateral security agreement. We are cooking with gas. I think the dust will settle over this election, and we'll be able to move forward. I was very impressed by this panel. Bob, that map just shows the potential for Afghanistan as regional hub for information and communications technologies.
Can you tell the people why the BEC was not signed so far? What was the reason behind it?
Well, the reason behind it is that President Karzai, I believe, had his difficulties with the White House and vice versa. That's one thing. I think also President Karzai felt that the new president signs the BSA because he will have responsibility for executing the Afghan side of it. But again, getting back to ICT, we want to thank your great job in putting this panel together, Bob, and we want to thank you for getting that map, getting that Deloitte guide to put that map together, because that sort of serves as an outline for the whole raison d'etre for this symposium. And to follow up on these issues, the Afghan-American Chamber of Commerce has a working group on information and communications technology related to Afghanistan. And I think the panelists here are great potential players in that working group. I think for the first time I can see greater potential for that working group because the group is composed of individuals who either know what they're doing and what they're looking forward to do. And with the collaboration of the ministry, I think that working group can be a very strong component in keeping USG interest alive, and we can have some of the agency players who might or might not play a role in this future simply sign on as ex officio. But this group, that map, the potential for the hub really is tremendous. Given that Afghanistan is so far advanced in the user-friendliness of its achievements of its ICT sector in the first place, and the user-friendliness of the ministry and the ICT sectoral governance in the second place. The word you keep hearing is leapfrog. I mean, it is amazing that a place that was shown by the minister early on, devastated 25 years ago, totally from 25 years of war. The fact that you can parachute in all this technology, it's so much more capable of application than some of the gigantic infrastructure that's necessary for a lot of other, say, manufacturing industries and stuff like that. So this is the cutting edge for the future of the Afghan economy. I'm convinced. All right. Jeff, our Vice President, one last comment.
What came out today to me from the hub concept, I think we've been looking at it only on the hardware infrastructure side, and it's much bigger than that. It's software, it's applications development, it's downstream growth of a non-hardware, frankly, a variety, where the growth is going to be. The bank has already recognized this. The bank announced a month ago that they made a huge mistake assessing the internet's impact on economic growth in countries. They used Afghanistan as an example where they underestimated the contribution that the internet and ICT is making to growth rates, and they want to relook at that. So they've dedicated the 2016 annual report to focus on internet and ICT development.
Yes, wonderful. I mean, the minister made the point, wealth creation. Yes, there's 140,000 jobs in the sector, but it is the best form of infrastructure for every other component part of the economy. When you come right down to it, probably the least expensive form of infrastructure to apply, and in social and human development as well. So again, thank you, panel. Thank you all. We're going to have a little bit of networking and refreshments. And yes, Suleiman is making the point. This is your 10th anniversary, Minister, our 10th anniversary Business Matchmaking Conference, which comprises Kabul in August, Dubai in early October, December in Washington, D.C. in a synergistic fashion. And we would like to carry on our relationship with you as we move forward with this idea of 10th anniversary business matchmaking with a good solid focus on Afghanistan as regional hub for ICT. Thank you all.